All right, so this is a pretty big deal here. It says Democrat introduces resolution to expel Greene. Now, you guys probably know who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. She is a lunatic, one of those crazy Karen, QAnoners. Except she's actually a representative in the House of Representatives. Think about how crazy that is. And so, she's been causing a lot of ruckus. Republicans calling her a pain in the ass because what she was doing is when they were trying to get the COVID relief package through, she kept forcing these motion to adjourn votes. Now, motion to adjourn is to close the session, pushing everything back, delaying it for another day. But the problem is, these motions to adjourn, they take at least 45 minutes just to get through the fucking vote. So Republicans are like, God damn! Even Captain Crenshaw, the pirate guy, is like, oh my fucking God, stop! So, people, like, she's starting to get on people's nerves, including Republicans. So it says Representative Jimmy Gomez, Democrat, California, on Friday formally introduced a resolution to expel Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Congress. Now, what are the grounds for expelling her, you may ask? Well, it says here, it says over her past indications of support for violence against prominent Democrats. And I think that that is a very, very legitimate reason to expel someone. I think that's the whole reason. I mean, expelling had a lot to do with treason, and a lot to do with like the Civil War era times and, people who sided with the Confederacy. But this is definitely a big reason, and I think a very, very valid reason, sort of putting the lives of the members of Congress, in danger, and putting the sort of safety of the institution in danger is a very serious thing. So it says, I believe some of my Republican colleagues, and one in particular, wish harm upon this legislative body. And I'm not saying this for shock value. It's the conclusion I drew after a member of Congress advocated violence against our peers, the Speaker, and our government, Gomez said on the House floor. I take no joy in introducing this resolution, Gomez continued, but any member who incites political violence and threatens our lives must be expelled, and I'll do everything I can in my power to protect our democracy and keep all my colleagues safe. So I think that's a really good, really strong argument for expelling her, actually. It says the House has only ever expelled 5 members in its history, and there's a high bar to expel a member from the House. A 2/3 majority must vote in favor. So that's going to be pretty tough to do, especially with the smaller majority that the Democrats have now. But I think that if the rate of Republicans who are starting to get pissed off at Marjorie Taylor Greene continue to go up, I want to say it's possible, but honestly it's not, because Marjorie Taylor Greene is now the representative of all the QAnoners, the Trumpies, and all that. And Trump really still has a lot of these House representatives by the balls. And that's because, in terms of House of representative elections, small pockets of the country. And so that means oversampling of certain types of ideology. And, Donald Trump still has a ton of support. He just got, fucking 60 million votes or whatever. So there's still a lot of people who support him. And because of that, it's going to make it difficult for Republicans to actually be down to vote against Marjorie Taylor Greene, because, as you guys know, MTG was having meetings with Trump privately. So, she's kind of Trump's, puppet or whatever you want to call it. It says House Democrats, as well as 11 Republicans, voted last month to strip Greene of her seats on the Budget and Education and Labor Committees in response to her past apparent endorsements of political violence, as well as her suggestions that school shootings and the 9/11 terrorist attacks were staged. But some Democrats, like Gomez, want to go further and remove Greene from Congress altogether. More than 70 Democrats have signed on to the expulsion resolution so far, according to Gomez's office. Aside from the difficulty of securing support from Republicans to get a 2/3 majority to expel Greene, Speaker Nancy Pelosi indicated Friday that House Democratic leaders aren't getting behind Gomez's resolutions. Members are very unhappy about what happened here, and they can express themselves the way they do. What Mr. Gomez did is his own view, and that is not the leadership position, Pelosi said at a press conference in the Capitol. So it's funny, man. I don't know, Pelosi always being a weakling in every situation, basically. But here's what it says. So CNN review of Greene's Facebook page found that she liked a comment in 2019 that said, quote, "A bullet to the head would be quicker to remove Pelosi." And in 2018, a commenter asked Greene, "Now do we get to hang them?" in reference to former President Barack Obama and former Secretary of State of Hillary Clinton. Greene replied, "Stage is being set, players are being put in place, we must be patient. This must be done perfectly or liberal judges will let them off." So, it says Greene also said in a speech that Pelosi was guilty of treason, which she noted as a crime punishable by death. So, when I read you those comments, think about how serious those comments are. Seriously, think about the extremism. I mean, this is essentially like Islamic terrorist level, crazy. I don't know if a lot of people know these comments. Liking a comment that says a bullet to the head would be quicker to remove Pelosi. Like, think about how serious that is. And then, saying the stage is being set to hang Obama and Clinton. Does somebody like that belong in the House of Representatives? The answer is an absolute no. And that is exactly why she should be expelled. And I think the argument in favor of expelling her is incredibly convincing. It's incredibly strong. But I think that due to the forces of Pelosi being just a loser and a weakling on literally everything ever, and then, Republicans being too afraid of the backlash from the Trumpies. So with that conclusion, I don't think it's going to happen. But if it's introduced here and Greene continues to piss off Republicans the way she's been doing, I wouldn't completely rule out the option. But I think it would have been more likely if the Democrats had a larger majority than they have now, because they barely have a majority. And remember, you need 2/3 of the vote in the House to expel somebody.